Here we go. All right, ladies, well, thank you so much for volunteering to come. This is my presentation on discovering motivation and why it matters. So to start with, I kind of just wanted us to briefly talk about the infographic. Did you all get it via email? Okay, cool. So I was just wondering, I kind of wanted to chat with you all and facilitate kind of a discussion on why you all thought that perhaps this infographic and kind of, you know, it was this big spiel about the rarity of our existence as humans, and so I was kind of wanting to get your take on why you all thought I might integrate this into a presentation about motivation at work and what it kind of means.
It's definitely intriguing that the infograph that you sent out. Maybe the reason why you sent it was because we're so unique and we bring something unique to the workplace, and that can be seen as really motivating, that you just have to find your niche and what you can offer.
Yeah, certainly, that's a great perspective. That's certainly something, yeah.
I think a little bit about privilege, like we're so lucky with that chance of being in existence, so we have such a privilege to do the jobs that we do, so we should do the best at our jobs.
Yeah, great, yeah, for sure, I agree with that as well. Anything else, ladies, that you thought was intriguing about the infographic, or anything else that you thought might be the reason why I thought it would pertain? Hi, come in. We're talking about the infographic that I sent via email.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, cool. Well, that's definitely a good kind of place. So, hi, Nicole. Hi, Blanca. So, to just really quickly just cap off, basically I kind of just asked these ladies here why they thought I provided this infographic as it pertains to a presentation about motivation. Shanae kind of mentioned that we're really lucky and that it's really something kind of where we have this opportunity to be really great at our jobs because we're so lucky. Brady talked about kind of how there's a perspective of uniqueness here and how we all really have something unique to offer kind of the workplace. Do either of you maybe have anything different or something you'd like to add? I know, hate to put you on the spot, y'all just got here. I just don't want to move on until I feel like we've all kind of, yeah.
I think that covers it.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Well, definitely I think Shanae and Brady kind of hit it right on the head. The idea for me is that I want to really just kind of stipulate and put out there that our existence as humans is not a mistake, right? It's by the means of the infographic, it's miraculous, right? It's a true joy and a true pleasure, and it's a bit of luck and a lot of other things that we exist in this world. And I think that's important because it does a few things for us, right? Like what Brady said, it allows us to kind of, take some time and have an excuse to discover why are we here? What do we have to give to the world? Like what's really important about us and who we are. So I think when it comes down to it, the idea is that this huge perspective of our rarity in existence is important in this perspective because it gives us the opportunity to discover what we're good at. It also, as I kind of put here, is maybe our duty to do that, right? Like we're so unique and we have so many amazing, wonderful things to offer the world. It's almost like our responsibility to figure out where we fit in the puzzle of the workplace and what really sticks to us in terms of kind of meaningful work. So that's kind of where I was heading with that. I hope it makes sense. So before we go any further, I kind of just wanted to talk a little bit about motivation in general. I mean, we've all been in school for at least 10 years at this point, so these are kind of, some self-explanatory concepts that I'm sure we're all familiar with at this point, but just to kind of, really hone in kind of the scope of the presentation here. Two types of motivation, according to most people, right? And that's intrinsic and extrinsic. So to start with the intrinsic ones, and we kind of talk about these questions in the scope of a professional environment. And an intrinsic motivator would be, is the work meaningful? Can you grow at this location or within this professional environment? Do you feel involved in or responsible for your future or any decisions that are made, that affect your work directly? And finally, do you feel supported and encouraged? Do you feel like this is a place where you belong and that you can kind of really thrive here? So going forward, kind of we can think about it, these broad pictures as things that are, motivated by how we feel, what we think, those types of things. On the converse side, we have extrinsic values or extrinsic motivations. So those are going to be things in the workplace, you know, are you generously compensated? Is your working environment safe and stable? Do you feel like you're going to lose your job next week, or do you feel like you could stay here forever even if you don't love it? You know, any types of other benefits that are offered. I mean, these days they're insane. Like, you can get dry cleaning done, they have doggy daycare, they have real life child daycare. It's crazy the amounts of kind of perks and benefits that companies are kind of doing to go above and beyond, I think, to try to get at this. But again, it kind of comes down to, are you motivated extrinsically? You know, these kind of things that affect your well-being but aren't necessarily part of who you are. They're not your values, they're not what you think or you feel. Does that sound good?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So then, moving on, my big question here is kind of, why does it matter whether or not we're motivated in the workplace, right? So these are just a few reasons why it matters, but when we really think about environments where people are not motivated at work and they're not passionate about what they're doing, these are the types of things that we get. People are super non-productive, you know, they're like doing 2 minutes of work and then 10 minutes on Facebook, and then 2 minutes of work and then 10 minutes on Facebook, you know, really, really low productivity rates. Creativity is hindered, you know, like if you feel like it's a place where you can't ask questions, you can't thrive, you can't be creative, then obviously all of those types of characteristics are going to be really kind of pushed under the rug, if you will. So high stress environments are commonplace as well. So I don't know if any of you know this, but I just, you know, came away from a job at Comcast, which is an extremely stressful environment. Especially in HR, when you're working with people and their money, and people care about their money, right? So I think if you're not motivated or you're not passionate about the work, it can become really stressful, you know, because you're like, oh, I don't really care about this. Like, where's my drive to get it done? Yeah, well, keeping your job is one of those things and can create a lot of stress. So the last one's going to be morale and engagement are low, right? And those are just things where, like, if you're in a group of people and you just know that everybody hates it, it's just like, everybody is literally just dying to get to the end of the day, just like when the school bell rings, they're just dying to get out, and they start all over the next day, just waiting for lunch to come, then just waiting for break to come, then waiting for the end of the day to come, right? So these are kind of just the big picture of why it matters in terms of what the consequences are when people aren't motivated at work. And going forward, these are kind of some images of where I think we are now professionally. And I don't mean we as this, you know, lovely group of talented women. I mean kind of we as a society. And I did kind of use some more kind of popular educational resources, if you will. You know, like Huffington Post is not necessarily known for its super great news, right? But it's entertaining. Oftentimes they do have a lot of cited support. It's not just like all women and such. But these are things that are reflective of kind of the public culture right now as it pertains to the public workplace. So I think this is kind of just where we are now. We're super sad, we're tired, we're hanging by our foot, and we're like, what's going on? We don't feel motivated, we have no idea what's going on, we can't find our passions. You know, our managers are not recognizing us in the way that we want, we're not feeling supported, etc. But these titles are kind of just a few that are representative of the larger kind of public groupthink, if you will. So these are from 2013, 2014, and 2015, but the titles kind of speak for themselves, you know. Americans hate their jobs, even with office perks. Most Americans are still unhappy at work. Americans are still unhappy at work. So these are kind of the collective thoughts as it pertains to current motivation and happiness in the workplace, right? So my idea is that we move, right, to a place of greener grass, better horizons, right? So the idea here is that we're going to move to a place where we're happy and dancing, and we sit there thinking with papers on our head about how we love our job, right? And it's so great to be here. But with that being said, I mean, these are, again, also those kind of public works and that public groupthink, but they're moving in a more positive direction and really emphasizing the importance of finding meaning and purpose at your job. So again, these titles kind of speak for themselves, but you know, entrepreneurial.com said this is what happens when employees find meaning at work, and it's this great article about how productivity is up, people are happier, more engaged, etc. Harvard Business Review, what do millennials really want at work? the same thing the rest of us do, right? And it's funny because there's this big perspective about millennials and how we're somehow different from other people within the workforce, which is just not true, you know? We want meaningful work, things that are important to us, and yes, we also want to be compensated, but so does everybody else, right? Everybody wants to feel like they're doing something meaningful in their work. And the last one is from LinkedIn, and he actually did write a book in 2016, and it's the 10 Truths About Finding Meaningful Work, and that one's just really slated on the, you know, these myths that we hear about finding meaningful work, like that it's too hard or that there's only one meaning for you out there. It's just like, oh, the myths about true love, you know, like there's something out there for everyone, and maybe there's not just one, maybe there's 4 or 3 or 2, and you kind of just have to find what works for you. But this is kind of my perspective on, you know, where we are currently in the social climate of the professional workplace, motivation and finding meaning and purpose at work. And I hope going forward we'll find more things like this. And with that being said, one thing I also wanted to mention is that infographic actually comes from a former professor of mine. His name's Zach Mercurio, and he is a consultant who specifically specializes in purpose. That's all he does. So he goes to universities, he goes to small businesses, he goes to large corporations, and he kind of talks to people about purpose, meaning motivation at work. And so I think these, as well as kind of that, really just speak to where we're going, you know, like we're going to a place where people really want to find meaningful work, and, you know, they understand the importance of doing that. So, with that being said, you know, it kind of comes back down to that so what, right? So I've kind of given you what motivation is, what it means for us, and kind of, you know, where we are and where we're going, but you kind of want to know more, so like, okay, well, why does it pertain to you, right? So I think it pertains to you all in the way that it does allow us to kind of find meaning for us. Like once we do this worksheet here, you'll be able to discover the motivators, and then maybe that might be able to allow you to transition into a place where you can find meaning and really discover what your purpose is, and, you know, determine whether or not that's something you want to pursue right now. Like there's a lot of us, like me at Comcast, I didn't love the work, but I was not in a place where I was stable enough to just, you know, walk up and quit my job, right? So those are things to keep in mind, but I think this entire activity and just this discussion does allow us to find that meaning and purpose, and also, you know, as it pertains to the infographic, and I hope this discussion in general will kind of make you feel that it's a worthwhile venture, right? Like it's something really important, that we should all feel motivated in the workplace, that we should all feel that we have purpose, and that, you know, maybe we shouldn't waste away in jobs that we hate, you know? So, then, in that case, let's do it. So I've developed a worksheet here based off of the 4 drivers of employee motivation. And these are kind of loosely based off of Herzberg's motivation hygiene concept. I mean, motivation is pretty simple. I mean, a lot of scholars consider there to be 2 types, right? Intrinsic, extrinsic. Same is true here. However, they kind of narrowed it down into more specified categories. So these are specifically what are the things that are going to motivate employees most within the workplace. And I would definitely say for the most part they're very intrinsically centered. So I've kind of developed a little bit of a worksheet here, and we'll go over that in a moment. But the first of the 4 is the connection to, or the purpose and meaning in the work. Kind of like what I've talked about here with you all, you know, like, does it align with your personal values? Is it something that you're passionate about? Do you believe in the work that they do? Like if you worked for a creditor who was collecting student debt, like I think for a lot of us who do have student debt, that would be a lot of kind of ambivalence, you know, cognitive dissonance going on in our heads, right? So things like that. Encouragement and support. Do you feel like this is a place where people are happy to see you succeed? Do you feel like they've given you the resources that you need and things like that? Sense of growth. You know, same thing with the resources and support, but, you know, do they offer opportunities for you to advance? Do they offer that, you know, weird training that you want the sponsorship for that will allow you to excel and be that much better at your job? And the last one is self-efficacy or influence on success. So one thing that I, you know, maybe didn't love about Comcast is that I felt that I didn't have any control. You know, like the upper management would make decisions that directly affected my work, but they didn't ever ask us about it. You know, they weren't like, what would work best for you? How do you feel about this? It was just like, hey, this is how it is. We're going to hand it to you on a pretty platter, right? So this last one is really important, at least for me personally, but it's kind of, do you feel like you have some sort of say in your future there? Do you feel like you have any influence on your success at all? Do you know how the promotional structure works, etc., right? So with that being said then, now that we kind of briefly know what they are, here is a worksheet for you lovely ladies. And we'll just take some time to just do it silently. I mean, of course, you can converse with each other if you'd like. Yeah, thank you. I also have writing utensils if you don't have them, but I just wanted to kind of have this be the last sort of thing that we talk about or that we do today to kind of really hone in on it, right? So I gave you some education. We had a brief little baby discussion or chat, right, about the rarity of our existence and why it's important in terms of motivation at work. And now we have a little worksheet here that I hope will kind of help you along in the process. So feel free to just take some time to do this alone. And if you'd like, we can take some time to talk about it after, or you can just take some time to think about it internally. 100% your choice.
Can I have a writing?
Of course.
I got it.
Oh, thanks, Betty.